So every once in a while, if you guys see, right, figure out how to set this up so that I can show you guys exactly what I'm trying to show you. If you see right down here, there's a little hole. And sometimes that'll get plugged up and your stove won't burn right. And what you got to do when that happens is come over to this side, open this up. We're going to go ahead and do this. I don't really need to right now, but give me 1 second. Let me go get my special tool, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to fix this, just in case you run into this issue. Okay, I'm back. Special tool. I don't know if you can see that or not. All it is a metal clothes hanger. So what you're going to do, hopefully you guys can see this. What you're going to do is you're going to remove this hose right here. Just slide it out of the way. You're going to take the straight part of this clothes hanger and stick it right through that hole where that hose was just hooked up. And then, if you look right there, you can see where that clothes hanger is sticking out of that hole. You just want to make sure that hole's open. What that does is that creates a vacuum and gets it to burn right. So you want to make sure that hole's open. And that's all I was doing by doing that. So a lot of times when I do my deep clean, I'll grab this, just run that through there just to make sure that hole doesn't get plugged up. And then just slide that little rubber hose right back on. So you're going to take your regular Phillips head screwdriver that we were using earlier to clean out the burn pot, and then just pull out these 2 screws. Make sure you don't lose these screws because you're going to need them to put this all back together in just a minute. So usually what I like to do is take the screwdriver and the 2 screws, set them up on top so that they don't get lost. And also, this is a good time to go ahead and get your vacuum as close as you can to where you're working, because you're going to need your vacuum here in just a second. And then you're going to pull this metal cover off, and we're getting interrupted again. Okay, and as you can see how that's all full of ashes right there? It's not supposed to be that way, so a month right now is probably just a little bit too long for me to clean that. And you'll see here in 1 second, I'm going to start sweeping that out. Okay, and now you might look at that and say, hold on 1 second, let me grab this. I like to have a towel or something to kneel down on so that my knees aren't on the hard floor. So let me get this towel and get it set down over here so I can get to work. Okay, so now a lot of times what you'll do is you'll see, and it looks pretty nice in there, right? But there's still a lot of stuff in there. So here's where that nice little lint brush comes in handy again. You're going to take that lint brush, run it up and down in here. We're going to clean that chamber out. And then on top of doing that, if you come over here, there's sort of another groove over there that goes up to go out your exhaust and stuff. So you want to make sure you hit both of those chambers I don't know if I can get, if you can see, there's one that goes straight up right here, and then there's one where you can see where the brush is right now. You want to make sure you get both of those chambers cleaned out. Other words, it's not going to do you a whole lot of good because it's not going to heat your house properly. It's not going to throw off the heat that it's designed to throw off. Okay, so once you're pretty sure you have that good and cleaned, grab your vacuum again and sweep that side out one more time. And I usually try and get the vacuum as far up in there as I can, even though I just did the brush, just to try and get anything else that's up in there out. Okay, once you've done that, make sure you check your rubber gasket, make sure it's good. This one's okay. It's not in the best shape. It could stand being replaced, so I'll make note of that and try and get a new one here over the off season this summer. And then next year, before we fire up when we're doing our clean out, we'll go ahead and replace the gasket on this side. The other side's actually looking still pretty good. This side's the one side though that's not looking the best. But it still works. Another thing you'll run into occasionally with these Vogelzangs, or at least stuff that I've ran into with this one, while we're here, I'll show you exactly what it is. This sensor right here, sometimes I have issues with that at the beginning of the year. I usually take these two screws out, pull that sensor off, and clean off the back side of it, and that way the sensor's right and it'll get the right reading whenever it's heating up and stuff. Because what happens is your fire burns in there, air comes down through, goes back out, then comes out this exhaust, and when it comes out the exhaust, there's a sensor right here, senses the temperature, and that's what tells the room fan over there to kick on to start blowing heat into the room. So it's waiting on this sensor to kick in, saying that the exhaust is hot enough to kick in the room fan. So if this sensor gets plugged up with soot and stuff like it usually does every year, and you don't take that off and clean it, it won't ever kick that room fan on, and then you'll be sitting here thinking that your stove's broke when really it's just that sensor's dirty. So make sure you take that sensor off every year, clean it up. Make sure you check these rubber gaskets here on the side. Now if you don't have a Vogelzang like I do, it might be something different. It might be a different panel or something like that that you need to remove. But somewhere in there, there should be a clean out. If it's not blowing out heat the way it normally does, it's getting plugged up in here, and the air's not able to flow through the way it normally would to heat up. So you need to get this out and get it cleaned. The only thing I've really had go wrong with this Vogelzang, other than cleaning it, is this fan blower right here. I looked all over trying to find a new one. At the time, Vogelzang had one, and they could get it to me, but it was going to be quite a while before I could get it. So I ended up going on Amazon and picking that up on Amazon. And honestly, it works. Actually, it's a lot quieter than what the one that came from Vogelzang was. I don't think it blows quite as good, but it's a lot quieter. So once everything's done, you have your burn pot back in place, everything's clean, your glass is clean and all that, we're going to go ahead and close this thing back up. We're going to go ahead and close this all back up. And then once we do that, we're good to go ahead and close this all up back here too. We want to make sure we pull our flashlight back off. And we can close that all up. Now a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take that, actually let me get the other side closed back up because I never shut this panel on this side. So a lot of times what I'll do is the paper towel that I use for cleaning the glass, I'll make sure I wipe the top of the Vogelzang down, wipe everything down good. As you can see, there are a couple little nicks and scratches from me setting tools up here on top of it, but this pellet stove's like, I want to say this is the 3rd year now I've used this pellet stove. And if you like this kind of content and want to know more about why I've chose a pellet stove and stuff with propane as a backup, then subscribe to the channel down below, or consider subscribing to the channel down below, because coming up in a future video we're going to go over why I chose a wood pellet stove, not a wood burning stove, and not the other options that are available. Not saying that this is the end all be all best option that there is. It's the one that worked for me at the time. So usually what I'll do before I fire this thing back up though is I'll go ahead, open this up, check the hopper. As you can see, it's actually pretty full, but one of the reasons why I chose this Vogelzang is because it'll hold almost 3 bags of pellets. So we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna try and get you guys set up where you can watch this and I won't knock you off. I can't guarantee that's gonna happen, but we're gonna try. So right there you guys can sort of watch. Now what I do is I keep 5 bags of pellets sitting right here by the stove, or rather when this little pallet that the pellet stove came on gets empty, I'll pull in 5 bags, set them in here, because just like your wood, if you're burning wood and stuff, I find it seems like the pellet stove runs a little better if the pellets are in here heated up to room temperature at least. But, and of course, since I'm filming this, I'd have to make a mess. I've never had that issue before, of them spilling out on that side, but they just did now. Only because, of course, I was filming. So, and that's another thing too, and we'll go over that in a future video when we're talking about the pellet stove and why I chose it, is pellets. There's a huge difference in pellet manufacturers, and to think that one pellet manufacturer is going to be good every year, you'd be totally wrong. One that's good this year might not be good next year. Now really, if I wanted to, I could push these all down and probably get a whole nother bag in here if I really wanted to, but right now, typically what I find is it burns about a bag or a little more than a bag a day. So right now there's probably a bag and a half to a bag and 3/4 in there. So that's pretty good. So we're going to close that up. Just do a quick walk around. As you can see, this panel's shut. We'll open it up. Just make sure both door latches are shut. That panel's back on. We didn't mess with anything else. We want to make sure we take our rag back off the top. The front's closed. The glass is clean. This side, same thing. Open it up. Panel's in place. We didn't take anything else off. And one of the things that I like about this Vogelzang is that's it. It's turned on. So now it'll fill up. While you guys are watching that, normally what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and get the sweeper and all that stuff, the ash vacuum, cleaned up, and pick up anything that's in the way while that's starting to do its process. Now what happens is those pellets will drop down into that burn pot, and there's a little sensor in there, a heating element that starts heating up, and it'll get those pellets. You'll see here in a little bit, they'll start smoking good, and then all of a sudden they'll just catch and they'll take off and they'll be burning like crazy. So I know normally by the time I clean up, go wash my hands and come back, it's usually smoking pretty good. Because if you're going to do this, you can see by my hand right there, don't think you're not going to get dirty, because you're definitely going to get dirty. But we'll let that keep going. I'm going to go wash my hands. You guys keep watching that. You'll see what I'm talking about here. Make sure you have a good soap. This one, unfortunately, they don't have it anymore. Ace, the one that I use, it's made by a company called Hero. It's a veteran-owned company. It's a dish and hand soap. Stuff works amazing for getting grease and stuff off your hands, and all this soot and ash from cleaning the pellet stove. It gets it right off. So you can see that pellet stove, the burn pot's getting filled up pretty good. You can see occasionally a little flicker of a hot spark comes flying out of there. And you can just barely right now see that faint trace of smoke. I don't know if you guys are picking it up on the camera. I can see it though with my bare eyes, but I don't know if you guys can see it with the camera. It's getting a little heavier now, so it should be a little bit easier for you guys to see, hopefully. In a second here, it'll get real heavy. You'll barely be able to see in that glass. And then as soon as that flame really lights, it'll burn up all that smoke and there won't be anything. Really, with my wood pellet stove like this is about the only time you'll see smoke coming out of my chimney, is right now during this startup process, when it's doing what it's doing right now. If you were outside right now, you would see smoke coming out of my chimney, but as soon as this thing starts burning, it'll burn up all those vapors and stuff, and you won't really get that smoke out of the chimney like you would sometimes with the regular wood burning stove. So you can see that smoke's rolling pretty good in there right now. There you go, there's the flame started now. And now, since that flame's going now, it'll shut that feed off, and it won't really feed a whole lot more pellets in there. It'll give it a chance, and it'll burn up all those pellets that are in there, and then it'll start feeding again once the temperature starts lowering down. There's sensors in there that tell everything when to do what, so. All right, well, hey, we got flame going again. We've done a good clean. It's really gonna get going here in a minute and really get burning. I'll keep you guys watching here for just a couple more seconds. As you can see, there's still a little bit of smoke rolling over here on this side. That's because they haven't all totally lit yet, but they will here in just a second. in a couple minutes here there will be a roaring flame going in there, and it'll stay that way. Normally for me, I just run this thing on the lowest setting. I just leave it be. You can set it up to where you want it to keep a certain temperature, and it'll feed pellets and stuff according to what it needs to do to keep that temperature. I don't do it that way. I just put it on the lowest setting and just let it run, and it just does its own thing, and it usually keeps the house typically between like 66 and 75. Somewhere in that neighborhood is where it keeps it. Just depends on how cold it is outside. If it's really, really cold outside, I'll bump it up, and I won't leave it on the lowest temperature. I'll bump it up to like the second or whatever. But as you can see, puts out a nice little flame and stuff like that. Like I said, right now, all that heat is going and heating up that exhaust. Your room fan, which will blow out right here, hasn't even kicked in yet, because that sensor that I showed you on that side over there hasn't got to the temperature it needs to, and hasn't tripped and turned on the blower fan yet. But that'll happen here soon. So hey, I want to thank you guys for watching another episode of These Homestead, and hope you liked it. Hit that like button, click subscribe, share this video with your friends, and leave a comment down below some more content that you'd like to see. All right, hey, have a good day, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.